This time we're going to discuss contrast and values in painting. It's a mysterious kind of a concept, but it is one of the most valuable tools we have to carry our concept. A painting has to have the values, your value pattern in contrast, figured out and confidently stated before we can really step into the painting. And this needs to be worked out. So I'm going to start off with examples, a couple examples of higher contrast. This particular one by Edward Compton is kind of a late day piece. I mean, not kind of, it is. You can tell by the cast shadows across here. We can see those, and it's either late day or early morning. But let's take note of the way he has chosen to lead us into this composition. I mean, it's pretty obvious just by his use of this snowbank and pulling us back into this area of highest contrast. And then we'll note how discreetly he carries us on through the rest of the painting. And this is the area in here, the comparison between this area and this one that I'd like to talk to you about, because even though this is, at initial glance, it's almost like a black and white, high contrast composition. We'll note that, you've all noticed that I've mentioned with fair frequency that if you open those shadows up or those darks up just a little bit in your particular piece, it will give them more air and more space and just give a little more dynamics to your painting, your concept. And this is of particular interest in that case because we can see here. Let's go to the black and white. This really points it out. See how he's got his darkest dark right up in here, and my marker won't go in red because this is a gray, all on grayscale. But you notice his darkest dark is right here against the lightest light, which is right in here. I mean, he's a master composer. So now let's compare the darks back here, which at initial view, it seemed to be this whole thing across here, including this big main tree in the midground here, were all the same value. Well, they're not. There's a subtle distinction here, and so you'll note that the darkest dark is right here, and how he's graded, slightly lightened those, but carried that darker statement, that lower value statement, all the way across, and then attached it over here on this edge with an even lighter dark, if you will, and how that just forms this wonderful composition that right there. Can you see a golden section in there maybe? So this is about value, and it is about contrasting values. This is such a beautiful example of that. I hope you see it, and please go back and review this monthly deliverable if there's any question, and then we can address further questions within our group itself. Now we'll go to the next high contrast piece with big patterns, and let's see. I'm going to pause here for a second. Apologies for that slight interruption there. This is another example of a high contrast, but not as high as the Compton piece. And it's sort of the same principle in that I have used this big snowfield here as a lead-in and a major statement, simple statement, a little bit simpler than the Compton piece, to pull the eye in with interest, establish the time of year, the time of day. This is more of a late morning piece, which you can tell by the the shadows back here. But yeah, I simply arranged this so that the contrast, we have high contrast up here in the foreground to capture the eye, and then move it back into the painting and back into this texture back in here, which is simply cattle in a pasture. But I wanted that to be like a second read in this case, and using the contrast of these darks. Whoops, that's not where I wanted my pointer. My darks in here, you can see this contrast to catch the viewer's eye, and then create a movement with these contrasts to literally move from here down in and through and back into this area, and basically up and around, and keep the eye within the four edges. So now let's look at the value, this thing in black and white, and you can see actually I should have added a bit of contrast to this black and white, which we'll do right now. Okay. Well, it's not going to let me do it. But the contrast in black and white should be a little bit more contrasty than this image right here. But nevertheless, we can see the wait a minute. Let me turn this off. Let's try it now. Bear with me, guys. I just need to try and beef this up a little bit so we can see. There, that's about where it should be. As you can see now, if we compare them. Yeah, that's about where it should be. So you can see, overall, this isn't nearly as high contrast as the Compton piece, just comparing these two. You can see that one's a little bit more light flooded. This one is. And but by playing up texture, subtle value changes, you can see in here, and of course the highest contrast right there is in that little texture, and small little accents like this will draw the viewer's eye. They'll move from the big ones, the big contrast areas, to the busy ones, and that's really the busiest place in the image. That's the point. And in terms of values, you can, again, we go back here and we can see this higher value area, higher contrast, lighter values against the darks, and then by making this busy, and the busiest area passage in the painting, now we blow this clear up, it's just strokes of paint, and the viewer reads it as cattle, because that's the kind of the silhouette shape that we're talking about. And I've subordinated everything else to that texture. So again, edges, we talk about edges constantly. They have a key role to play in value and contrast. And by keeping these edges simple up in here, and letting warm and cool color carry the message, you can see how subtle that is. In black and white, it's barely discernible. Levels. Okay. Forgive me here. The same with up in the sky. Value. Okay. The value contrast is very, very close in black and white. The sky and the clouds almost converge and become one. But with color temperature, you can see that's the main distinguishing characteristic. It's almost the same value. The same over here in this tree. Apply texture and color that warms against the cools to carry this message. So I hope that this helps shed some light on high contrast paintings, high contrast concepts. Now we will go to some other situations here. Now we'll look at low key and close value. This David Davies was an Australian painter, and this is obviously an evening piece, and you can see how effective this is through the value range that he selected. And you'll see it goes from good strong darks in here, in that tree line back here, to the only really high key note, of course, is the moon. And everything else, it's basically, we can look at this as a, let me find my pointer, dang it, okay, there we go, as a one value, number two value, and a number three value. Three values, not including the moon. So this is a three value statement. He has repeated that. You can see he's repeated the light of the moon right over there, right over here. But other than that, this is a three value painting, and you can study it and count them. You'll also see another lighter accent, kind of same value as the moon over here, and another right over here on this fence line. So he's 1, 2, 3. He's used that light in three different places of his highest key. But other than that, we can consider this a three value painting. And I would highly recommend that you guys, that all of you that are really interested in pursuing this, get online and order a set of Copic, C-O-P-I-C, sketch markers. You can get them in a set of grays, and you can map out, limit yourself to say three values, or three values and one highlight, like in this case. And I'll talk about this further along in this discussion. But then you can map out in grays your value plan, which I find really helpful. And one of our participants in our group, I thank her, Maria Josenhans, that had introduced me to the Copic markers, Copic. I just find them really expedient to use by limiting myself to anywhere from 2 to 4 values in a piece. So that's a worthwhile investment. They're not terribly expensive, and they're refillable. So there you go. And we'll discuss them further. So yes, you can see here, and I'd like to also point out, blow this up. Unfortunately, this is a fairly small reproduction I have. But you notice what he's done with his edges, and they just simply get lost back in here. Let me go back over to the color piece. You see how he loses these edges and just feathers them into the background so that they're not that important, so they recede in space. And how these edges up here in the top part are a little more defined. Same in here. What he's done, and little accents of crisp edges to catch the eye, and then to pull it into the texture. This is similar to the way I handled those cattle in the first piece. They're just strokes of paint, but the silhouette is what defines them. You'll see no rendering in here, it's very painterly, and it invokes a wonderful mood, a feel, very peaceful. The sharpest edge in here, besides this edge over here on the building, which then he's kind of camouflaged value-wise, and by camouflage, I mean, I'm trying to blow this thing up. You see how he's tucked this dark? Let me get rid of these. Tuck this dark right here up against the dark edge. That softens it. That pulls that. What he's done is effectively pull that edge into this nice graphic dark pattern across the his horizon line in here. Again, we can see just what he's doing here. Darn it, it's hard to show you on with the black and white because I don't have a color to highlight. So we'll go back over here. And just to point this out quickly, is the composition of, again, this nice kind of T composition here. Everything else is basically subordinated to those two power lines, if you will, the vertical and the horizontal. And that'd be the first big read from across a room, would be that composition, that powerful horizontal and vertical, and everything else hangs off of that. So now we'll go to another example of a close value, an evening piece. I didn't pull any nocturnes because I just didn't for this discussion, but this gives you roughly an idea of what we're talking about.
Hi, I'm Skip Whitcomb. I'll be conducting a mentoring course on color harmony. In over 40 years of teaching, color seems to be one of the biggest mysteries. We'll be able to spend a year together developing a reliable foundation for making harmonious color decisions. There are certain irrefutable truisms in painting. One is the fewer colors used, the stronger and more harmonious the statement. Economy of color equals clarity of intention. Respected painters, past and present, understood this concept and have employed it in one form or another. We will explore the power of a limited palette, calculating progressive sequences of 3 to 6 colors, referred to as harmonic chords, and explore how to select the best color set to serve our concept. The goal is to give each artist a reliable foundation for making color decisions, for developing personal expressions of color. Hope to see you in the course.